All right, this is going to be the first of two videos we're going to review today. And this one is Gary Gensler the day after the Bitcoin ETF approval. We had a successful launch, good amount of trading, and he should be taking a victory lap here, saying, you know what, I ushered in a Bitcoin ETF once the product was safe and we had monitoring and we had first-class issuers, really quality products, people like BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK. Like, these are some heavy hitters in the ETF space, low fees. And you can say, look, I personally don't invest in cryptocurrencies. I don't like them as an investment vehicle because they're too volatile, but that's not my decision to make. The market wants this. And once it was ready to trade, we went ahead and approved it. It would help him also when he goes to court over other crypto issues, saying, look, we're not anti-crypto. We just got to make sure it's compliant and it's right. It's not what he says. And I think when you really look at this, this is shocking because he says, look, we were forced to do this because of the courts. They said it's the law of the land. We can't stop this. But when you look at that vote, what happened? Two commissioners voted no anyway. Even though it was clear by a court decision, the law of the land is they must vote yes on this thing. Two commissioners decided they're going to make up their own laws, their own rules, defied the courts, and they still voted no. Now, it may not have mattered, but just the fact that they made that vote, that's troubling in itself. It's a big issue, and it's really a shame that these enforcement agencies, and all of them are like this, are fully captured arms of political parties, used as puppets to promote political agendas. And that's really what we see happening here. Gary Gensler doesn't care about crypto one way or the other. President Biden's anti-crypto. Elizabeth Warren is anti-crypto. And so he goes out there, even when it might not be lawful to do so, and he does everything he can to stifle this space. Let's listen to this. This was shocking. And I know a lot of you out there have told me that this is really the SEC's standpoint. And until now, I disagreed. But I have to concede and say, they are just going to, even when it's not lawful, try to disrupt and stop cryptocurrencies.
Joining us right now, first on CNBC, following that decision that some have described as historic, is SEC Chair Gary Gensler. Chair Gensler, we appreciate you being with us. Let me start by asking you this. Do you consider the decision historic? And it appears that it's a decision that you made either reluctantly or perhaps even begrudgingly.
Well, look, Andrew, this has been considered for a long time. As you know, starting under Chair Clayton, we had disapproved a number of these over the years, and something had changed. I'm a deep believer in the rule of law and a respect for the courts, and taking a new court decision into consideration, we move forward. I think this is the most sustainable path forward.
Now, here's the deal. He doesn't even need to admit that. He was given an out. BlackRock introduced the monitoring agreement, which is something the SEC had said for a long time that we need. That we need to be able to monitor the underlying market to ensure there's no fraud or manipulation. And so he could have said it has nothing to do with the court decision. That as soon as the product was ready to trade, we allowed it. Like, this guy's an imbecile. We're not dealing with a rocket scientist. And further, he doesn't care about any of that. He's given his marching orders what to say. And we know Elizabeth Warren in some of these hearings not only writes the questions, but his answers to those questions. This guy is a puppet of the highest order, and it really is a shame.
So it appears, though, from what you're saying and reading through the decision as well, that what changed is not necessarily something inherent to crypto or Bitcoin per se, but what changed was what the courts did. Is that the way to think about this?
Well, again, we do everything here at the Securities and Exchange Commission within the law and within how the courts interpret those laws. And that's what the American people expect, and that's what we do here.
What is your message to investors about Bitcoin now? Because we're going to have all sorts of public investors now potentially have access to Bitcoin in a way that they didn't before. We were just talking to Larry Fink. He said that he got a huge wave of new investors getting into Bitcoin through this ETF. You have still suggested to be cautious about it, and I'm trying to understand how you think about those cross currents in terms of the message you're telling investors.
Now, first of all, I have no problem with the SEC advising caution, reminding the market that this is a volatile asset. I think that's proper. It's fine. But he goes way above and beyond that in this interview. And you're going to see how negative he really gets, even specific not just to cryptocurrencies, but to Bitcoin itself. And to me, that's problematic. That's not his job to assess the underlying asset and its investment perspective. It should just be as simple as, does this financial product meet our laws and regulations? And then if investors want to invest in it, so be it. But again, we'll give out our guidance that, you need to be careful. It's volatile, all of this kind of stuff. That's fine. He goes above and beyond to trash this asset. And again, that's not what he's supposed to be doing.
Well, look, Bitcoin itself, we did not approve. We do not endorse. This is a product called an exchange-traded product, a way that investors can invest in that underlying non-security commodity called Bitcoin. But yes, investors, I think, should be aware that the underlying asset is a highly speculative, volatile asset, and amongst its use cases is really for illicit activity, money laundering and sanctions and ransomware and the like. And I know that you've asked other people over the last few days, is it being used as a store of value? It's a speculative, volatile store of value. Is it being used as a payment anywhere? Are we buying cups of coffee with it? Not really. The only payment mechanism it's being used for in a primary sense is illicit activity. So I think you've been spot on about that, Andrew.
And so here's the deal. Think if a company went public and it's losing money. Yeah, it's got a lot of revenue coming in. Would he get on here and point out all these things about that specific company? Or does he go on to the underlying metrics of any other commodity out there? Again, he is just negative on crypto because that's the political agenda. These are not the things that he should be looking at. He admitted Bitcoin itself is not a security. It's strictly a commodity. If people want to trade that in an ETF, they should be able to do it. And it's not for him to vote no. And he's going to go into another argument that really drives me crazy. We'll get into it. And it's about, crypto fans or crypto enthusiasts, they talk about, it should be decentralized and all this stuff. And now it's being wrapped on these centralized exchanges for people to invest in a traditional manner. Let's hear what he has to say here. But that argument gets my blood boiling. And I'll tell you why here in just a second.
On that note, Mr. Chairman, this is out, and I'm not going to take either side on the whole thing. And it's kind of funny. These are, I don't know the exact units, but if you look since 2017, what's been used to launder money, 20,000 is the unit for, 20,000 is the unit for a dollar, 33 is the unit for Bitcoin. So that's a multiple of I don't know how much for dollars being used for money laundering versus Bitcoin. But now I could see Bitcoin bears saying, really? Well, it's not even good for money laundering. Then it has zero value. I could just see that as another arrow in the quiver for the bear case. But the question I wanted to ask you was this: let's take the continuum. Let's take the rat poison, Beanie Baby, Jamie Dimon, Charlie Munger versus.
Real quick, and that's a great analysis there. People use all sorts of technology for bad purposes. And you have the simplest thing like US dollars, which is the king of money laundering. So every anti-crypto person says, well, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, they're used in money laundering. Yeah, to a really small extent. We're not getting ready to ban US dollars or email or all sorts of various mechanisms for money laundering and criminality. Like criminals use tools just like we do. Of course, they use dollars just like we do. That's just a nonsensical argument at the end of the day.
We had yesterday on our Coinbase CEO. Did you hear him make the case for Bitcoin? I mean, it was almost like a symphony to Bitcoin bulls, Chair Gensler. The proof of work. akin to gold. Every monetary aspect we've had for thousands of years is represented perfectly. And Tom Lee, there's never been a mistake on the blockchain out of trillions of transactions. You understand it. You taught at MIT. Which is it? Is it a beanie baby in your view, or is it something that has inherent value that's going to be part of the financial system decades from now? Which is it?
Look, no doubt there are innovations within this field, and those innovations which I taught about at MIT around a ledger system. It's just an accounting system called the blockchain technology. But there's an irony in the midst of this. Satoshi Nakamoto said this was going to be a decentralized system. And finance, this has led to centralization. Think about the irony of those who say this week is historic. This was about centralization and traditional means of finance that investors who could already express themselves in Bitcoin, you could already, before this week, buy it through major brokerage houses, but now you can buy it through this thing called an exchange-traded product
but the underlying
as well,
still has
centralized.
The underlying.
Now, I see people arguing this on Twitter too. They're like, oh, you're all about decentralization, and now we have banks and financial institutions holding, crypto in a centralized manner. Look, the point of decentralization is that I, a regular person, can self-custody and use it any way I want. But guess what? Everybody can use it. Banks, Charles Schwab, BlackRock, nation states. There is no stopping those people from building financial products with it or sending payments, or anyone can use this technology. Not just specific people, but nobody can control it. And that's the key difference. It's not appropriate for everyone to self-custody. There can be security issues, home invasions. You can have errors. You can lose your keys. You can get hacked. Look, there's one thing to use the technology, but for a lot of people that just want to invest in this asset, this newly emerging asset, this is a great option, and they can do that. And look, if they want to use some Bitcoin or some other kind of crypto on the side, this doesn't stop them, but it gives them a secure, low-cost way to get exposure to cryptocurrencies as an investment vehicle. The fact that people invest in gold with ETFs, that doesn't change its underlying value and the different things you can use it for. It doesn't stop you from stacking gold bars up, in your safe and holding it directly. That's fine as well. It doesn't take any of that away. But the fact that, now you have an ETF that gives people a new avenue, pension funds, endowment funds, or just big investors that don't want that kind of value on their person because there's a security issue there, that doesn't change any of the fundamentals of the network, of the blockchain in general. And this will be a wave of the future. We're going to see it go to the broader crypto space. And it shows traditional finance, government, nation states, everyone is bending the knee in adopting this technology. So you get the idea here with this. We can hear him rattle on. It's the same thing. He's very anti-crypto, anti-Bitcoin. And that's not his call. Is this a legal ETF? Is the underlying asset a commodity or a security? And then go ahead and approve the thing. And again, it's shocking that a court said the law of this land states they have to stop denying it, and 2 commissioners still voted no. That needs to be investigated. Haul them back into Congress. Let me know what you think down below. And as always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.